A good way to start with brainstorming and making a board game is to just write everything down. So at the bottom of the slide, I mentioned the word spider. It's a form of mind mapping. So what you do is you just write down the 3 teams on a large paper, and then you just start to write down everything that comes up when you think about one of those 3 words, and you try to connect them with that. And those new words, when you write them down, you also think about, okay, and what word connects to that? So, for example, when you're talking about destruction, of course, you're talking about explosions. And when you're talking about explosions, you're talking about fire. And when you're talking about fire, you're talking about heat and warmth and things like that. So write all those things down and just open up a little and try to get into the creative mode. And it's very important that at this stage there are no bad ideas. So it doesn't matter if it's silly, if it's bad, or if it doesn't have anything to do with the theme. It doesn't matter if it's hurtful, because you will at some point filter out all the good ideas. But it's just important to write down as much as possible. So we call this diverging and converging. I'm not entirely sure about those terms. It's translated from Dutch, but it means that diverging means that you go very broad and associations that relate to the theme, but also associations with that. So you get a really broad scala, a broad range of words or ideas to pick from. And at this point, it will also be smart to think of game IDs, so just not words, but also game IDs. Because after you've done it, after you've done like a lot of different IDs, you can pick out the good ideas or the ideas that you're enthusiastic about or like, and then you converge again. So you work those out and you get narrow again and try to get more specific and filter out the bad stuff. And when we're talking about game design and creating board games, I think a danger is that you try to be really unique. So you want to make the next big thing that nobody has ever played before. That is really difficult to do. Plus, it will usually not work really well because it's too unfamiliar for people. If it's too unique or too creative or too much out there, it's very difficult to create. It's very difficult to balance and work out well, and it's very difficult to present and to sell to other players or to other people, because they can't really relate to the subject or to the game idea. So there's sort of a golden rule here that a game should be 80% familiar and 20% unique. But it's very important that this 20% unique is so unique that people do want to play it. So, for example, I'm just going to say it: everybody hates Monopoly. I know. Maybe there are a few people out there that like Monopoly, but let's assume that everybody hates Monopoly. But what if you would have Monopoly, but then see if I can think of something on the spot. Monopoly with baby pandas, and it's about like building up a baby panda kingdom. And that baby panda thing, that could be the thing that is unique, because they're very cute, of course, and you can collect all kinds of different pandas instead of streets, and these pandas, they eat bamboo instead of money. So you give a twist to an already familiar game that everybody knows and is able to play, but because they are pandas, everybody likes it because pandas are so cute. Of course, that's a really bad example, and it's just like a theme or like a sauce over an existing game. But if you look, for example, at video games or other board games, it's always based on existing mechanics. So if you take Risk, for example, Risk is a game where you conquer these countries. You can look at a lot of games that have come out in the past 10 years that have Risk as the basis. So, for example, Axis and Allies is basically Risk, but then way more complicated. And there's also Eclipse, which is Risk, but it's in space. And you can also invent new technologies. So it's not bad to take something that's really familiar and already mechanic or a game that works. So don't be afraid to just pick a game and start building from there. That's also why we usually have the tip to bring a board game that you are not using anymore, that you can destroy if it's needed, and you just invent your own rules around it and make it something new. And have this thing in the back of your head that has to be 80% familiar and 20% unique, and then it will be easier to create. Will be easier to balance. It will be easier to sell, to market to people, and to explain. So especially with explaining the rules, that will really help you get up to speed fast. So another thing you can do is just write down a few games that you like, or a few game mechanics that you like. For example, I personally really like deck building games. So if I'm going to join them for brainstorming, I would try to think of ideas that would do something with deck building, where you collect cards and put them in the deck and build up your deck like that. So I like that because, and so that will help me create a game idea that is based on deck building, but is also going to be unique. And then, because we have several people here, what will happen is that they will challenge my ideas, and they will say, "Well, this won't work, that won't work, but if we take this from your idea and we take this from my idea, then we can create something that probably works." So that's why we also promote to do this in teams, because then you can really help each other and you can spark new ideas. That is, in short, how to start brainstorming according to board game jammers. Sorry about that. I think writing down the words, writing down game genres that you like would be a good start, and go from there. Well, wish you the best of luck. If you have any other questions, just let me know. But this is everything that I would have to say on the subject.